Hi, Dean. How are you today?
Hi, how are you?
Good. Welcome back
Thank you.
to the
Good
call.
to, good to be back.
For those who weren't on the call previously, can you give us just a really brief introduction on you and tell us who you
Okay,
are?
sure. I'm Dean Simonides. I'm a CPA. My office is in Rochelle Park. I'm the accountant for all the Bergen County Keller Williams, through Al Donahue, of course. Been practicing for over 30 years in the business. Um, Pretty up on this PPP application that I think is hot on topic for today. And I've been doing nothing but that maybe for the last week, as a matter of fact, trying to guide clients through this process. And so to the extent of what I know, what I'm able to help, I'm here to do that today.
Yeah, and I think we have a lot of questions. We were getting a lot of questions yesterday about pretty much everything that's available to us right now. So maybe you could give us all a little bit of a brief overview of what is available, and then we can get into some specific questions.
Okay, so in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic and the programs that the government's put in place specifically for that, the number one program is the Payroll Protection Program, which we'll talk about in a moment. As far as other programs to go for, there are other disaster relief programs out there that have always been out there. But the one that's being used more often than not is the EIDL loan. That's an acronym for economic injury, something disaster loan. It's a $10,000 potential loan that is really for people that have no other choices but to ask for this loan. It's really if you are down and out, you don't have access to credit, to capital, your business is closed. It's really meant for that. But there are a lot of people that have gone to this loan as a potential help for a $10,000 quick fix. But I don't know how good this loan is going to be because it's not meant for this purpose. So we're cautioned by our societies from the educational seminars that I've taken on this topic to really give our clients some pause if they're going to actually apply for this, because they really have to, under penalties of perjury, sign off that they are in that kind of desperate need for the loan. Now, I'm not saying don't apply for it. This is tough times for everybody. So if you feel you're entitled to it, go for it. But I'm not going to really give that advice. I'm going to tell people more about the Payroll Protection Program, which is the number one program for businesses that is available.
Sure. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Who's eligible and kind of the basic questions of what you've been getting? Because obviously you're helping for a lot of people to apply for this right now.
Exactly. So so the government has allocated $2 trillion, as you may have heard through TV and radio and internet. This money is being allocated by the government to the banks nationwide, all the big and smaller banks as well. So the banks are the third party that have to administer this program. So it's the government wants to give us business people the money, but the banks are the ones that are going to do that through a process. Now, the process is this Payroll Protection Program, and it's based upon payroll. Now, the term payroll is a broad term for purposes of this discussion and this program. Payroll means actual payroll that a business pays to its employees with a traditional W-2 and quarterly filings. That, of course, is payroll. But also, if you're self-employed, which many on this call may be, you are also considered as part of that program, and payroll is considering self-employment income as well. So if you file a Schedule C for your business, which is a sole proprietorship, or if you file a Form 1065 for your LLC partnership with two or more people, and you're self-employed, you are entitled to this program and you fall under the payroll category. So there's a calculation that has to be made dependent on the type of payroll you have. So we can talk about general questions that people may have and more specific questions because it can get kind of detailed. And depending on how far you want me to keep talking, I'll keep going and explain it further, but I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, so I think now's a great time to open it up for questions. I'm sure you definitely had a lot of questions yesterday for Patrick. So if you want to open up those questions, then this is definitely the better forum. So if anyone has any questions, put them in the chat, or you can just go ahead and unmute yourself.
I have a question. It's
Go ahead,
Colleen
Colleen.
Shabatnik. Can you apply for PPP and unemployment?
You're not supposed to do both.
You're not, okay.
You can, but you shouldn't, because that's a complete opposite.
That's what I thought.
Two opposite statements. You're unemployed
Yep.
in one sense, and then you're employing yourself on the other sense. It goes against each other.
Yep, that's what I thought. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Kathy Warnett asked, which is better, unemployment insurance or PPP?
Well, that depends on the amount of money that you're eligible for a PPP. And that's based upon a calculation that has to be made in your particular instance. So unemployment is usually 60% of what you are earning. Now, self-employed people have never been eligible for unemployment before. They've opened that up in this program to allow for self-employed people to get involved. But honestly, that application process is going to take forever, in my opinion. And you may be eligible, you may eventually get it, but it's going to take weeks and weeks, I think, because it's a horror right now out there with unemployment.
Yeah. What other questions do we have?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You listed what qualifies like Schedule C if you're self-proprietorship. What if you're paying your employee with a 1099?
That does not count as payroll. Your employee, when you pay somebody as a 1099, you're saying that that person is a self-employed person. You're passing that burden on to that person that works for you as an outside contractor. That person can apply for this program because that person is a self-employed person, right? You're paying an outside contractor as a self-employed person. That person can also apply for the program. That person does not get included in your payroll.
Okay, so you're saying that because we get 1099s that we should then apply for the PPP, not because we're paying someone, but because we're paying ourselves?
Yes, I know it sounds odd, but let's take an example. Let's make an easy example out of this. Let's say there's a realtor in business for him or herself, and that person has a Schedule C within his personal tax return or her personal tax return. That's what you would file. So your top line is your income. That's the commission income you get from your real estate sales. You deduct all of your expenses that you have against that money, and you have a net profit that you pay tax on. That net profit is the payroll in the definition of payroll costs for this program. So if you have a profit, and let's just make it easy. Let's say the profit is $120,000. Okay, the profit is capped at 100,000. So you can't go higher than 100. So we know even if you're higher than that, you have to stop at 100. If you're at 90 or 80 or 70, of course, the lower number will prevail. But that becomes your payroll for the definition of this program. Now we'll get into the weeds with this in a second, but starting with that point, you can make a couple of additions to that payroll number to increase it. And the additions are any health insurance premiums that you are paying for yourself as a self-employed person. So if you're paying your insurance company for health insurance, then you are eligible to add that total annual number to your net payroll, your net Schedule C profit, and increase the total. You can also increase the total by adding to it any self-employed retirement contributions that you made for yourself. Okay, if you have a SEP or a solo 401k or whatever you have, you can add the employer portion, the employer kick-in match, if you will, to the payroll costs. So you have your net profit from your business, you add in your medical insurance premiums, you add in your retirement plan contributions, and you get a grand total. And that encompasses payroll costs for this program. And basically, you take the total, you divide it by 12 to get an average monthly number, and you multiply that number by 2.5. 2.5 months, basically. And that is the amount of the loan that you are eligible for.
Okay, so if your net profit is already over this $100,000 mark, you're not going to bother adding in the medical and all
No,
these-
you are. You're just capping that starting point at 100. You can make
Okay.
the total may be well over 100 when you add in your medical insurance and you add in your retirement plan. You just have to cap your profit at 100,000.
Wait, hi,
Okay.
Dean. So I have a
Yes.
quick question. Hi, it's Karen Kleiman. How are you?
Hi, Karen.
Okay, so my accountant told me only to add in that not that I can use as my paying myself out of the money, my health insurance premiums, but she never said anything about my IRA. So theoretically, I can take my 1099 income, add what I pay for premiums, and add what I'm giving out to my IRA, and then divide by the 12, and then times the 2.5.
Yes, but it's not your total 1099 income. It's your profit after whatever your deductions were.
Okay, so my net income theoretically, plus my premiums, plus my IRA.
Yeah, yes. You're correct.
Okay, I got to adjust it before I submit it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is why we bring on the best.
That's right. I'm trying to
We had a
help.
question in chat from Keith. Can you apply for PPP if you have another income source like rental income, a second job, or even a working spouse?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
This program, you're eligible for it no matter what your credit is like, whether you have another income coming in, if you're a multimillionaire, it doesn't matter. You're eligible for the program if you attest in the application that you've been negatively impacted in your business, in your self-employed business from the coronavirus pandemic. You're stating that you've been negatively affected. If that's true, you are eligible for the program no matter what else.
Okay. And Nina asked if they need to apply for unemployment, get rejected, and then apply for PPP. Is that correct?
One really has nothing to do with the other in my book. I mean, if you are eligible for the PPP, I think you should apply immediately for the program, and it's done through your bank. There is a form 2483 that many of you have already probably seen. It's the SBA application for this program, form 2483. And that has to be completed, and you upload that to your bank's website. That is the part of the application process, and you attach whatever documentation they're asking you to attach. That's going to be bank statements, payroll records if you have a payroll for an employee, maybe your Schedule C from your personal tax return, various documents to prove that you are self-employed and that you have this income that you are applying for relief for. So let me just take it one more step. After the application process, bankers are usually going to call you, or they're going to contact you by email, and they're going to go over your application and button it up a little bit. They're going to ask you some questions, maybe get some clarification, maybe ask you for some more documentation. When that process is over, you're going to get your money. It's going to be direct deposited to your account if you have direct deposit capability. Now, once you have the money, you have until June 30th to spend the money, okay? Because you are saying by getting this loan that you want to keep yourself and your employees employed during the pandemic crisis. And they're adding the date of June 30th for the time being as that ending date. So let's say you're self-employed. We talked about somebody that has a Schedule C. They have a profit. They don't pay a payroll to themselves, but in this case, you must. You must cut a check to yourself from the account that the money goes to. Whatever account gets direct deposited from the loan, you have to cut checks to yourself that are going to equal at least 75% of the amount of the loan that you received. The other 25% you can use on rent if you have a home office, or if you have an actual facility that you rent, or utilities. So at least 75% for payroll purposes and no more than 25% for rent or utilities. If you're able to do those two things by the end of June, then this loan is forgiven. It becomes a tax-free grant, not repayable. So that's huge. You want to be able to get the money, yes, but also possibly have it completely forgiven if possible as well.
So I think that answers the question from Nina that's in chat. Is this a grant or a loan? This is a grant.
It's a loan. It becomes a grant if you follow the rules.
Gotcha. And Kathy asked, will they calculate on 2019 or 2018 1099s?
If you've already filed 2019, they're going to use 2019. If you haven't, if you're on extension, and you haven't filed yet and you want to get your application in now, then you use 2018.
Okay. I see Oscar, you have your hand up. Oscar, go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Hey, Dean, I have, so when you say you have to cut a check, is only one, or you have to cut, depends on the 8 weeks that they say?
I don't really know the answer to that question. It just makes sense to me that if you wanted to write one check to yourself, you could. You just have to make sure that at the end of that 8-week period, which effectively is June 30th for most definitions of that, you have used the money in the appropriate fashion. Whether it's one check, multiple checks, I don't think makes a difference.
And if it's because you're taking up from the same account, I mean, you could deposit from taking a check from the same account and put it in the same account, or you will have
Well,
to.
I mean, I guess you could, but I wouldn't. I would put it someplace else, because you have to prove to the banker. You don't have to prove to the IRS. You don't have to prove to your accountant. You have to prove to the banker who gave you the money that you used this money appropriately and you paid yourself with it. So getting it out of that account and putting it somewhere else, I think, is the smart move.
Okay, I'm following up on the PPP program. Based off, there is a 10 advance. That's part of the PPP program, the 10,000.
No, that's the EIDL that we started discussing when I first came on. That's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. That is a separate loan. Only if you're out of work, you have no money, you have no credit. You know, that's a dire straits type of a loan. That's the purpose of it. I'm not telling you not to apply for it. That's for you to decide yourself. But it's not supposed to be used for the same thing that the PPP is for.
Okay, got it. But I saw that when you apply for the PPP, they ask you if you apply for the other one. So,
right, they do ask the question. Because what they're going to do is if you get accepted in the PPP program, they're going to subtract what other loans you may be getting. So, you know, that's why I'm saying I don't think that's the loan for most people, that $10,000. I would avoid that one. If you're eligible for the PPP, this is the one that you want to go for.
The only issue right now we're having, I mean, I'm part of the many banks are just based on you have to be customer of the bank to receive the applications. So right now, that's one of the challenges that the bank, I applied, I'm part of Wells Fargo, and they don't.
Look, I'll tell you, Oscar, this is probably the biggest problem that I've encountered so far with the program. I can explain to you how it works. I can explain to you what kind of benefits you may get out of this, how to get the loan forgiven, but I cannot explain how the rollout of this has been so sloppy, because the banks are treating this as if they're underwriting a traditional loan that somebody goes to based upon their credit and maybe the LTV of their house. And, you know, to speak your language, you know, this is not for that purpose. This is to get the money to the people as fast as possible so we can survive the pandemic for the next couple of months. That's what the purpose is. And I'm hearing time and time again, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, you know, if you don't have a relationship with that bank or you have the wrong kind of bank account with them, they are locking you out. I have to say, I think the government, not the IRS, I think the government's going to step in and loosen those rules up. That's my opinion. But I can understand what you're saying, because I've heard that time and time again.
And just the last question, Dean, I'm sorry. So you take the payroll, just to confirm what you say, is that you have the Schedule C, you have the gross income, you do your deductions, and the net profit, that's the payroll yearly, right?
Right. That's exactly right.
And times 2.5, that's the maximum for the rent. Okay, awesome.
Right.
Man. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Good luck. Good luck.
Andy, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead, Andy.
Okay, so my question is, if we're successful enough to get the PPP and they pay us in one lump sum, or do they pay us in pieces so that we use what we need by June? Because June is just like a month and a half away. And we're supposed to spend all the money that we would normally spend in a year just by June in order to qualify. I'm a little confused with that.
Okay, they're not giving you a year's worth of income. They're giving you 2.5 months of income.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
my knowledge of this is they're going to give you a lump sum. So let's say you apply today, and let's say a couple weeks from now you get your money. You
Okay.
have all of May and all of June to spend this money
Ah,
appropriately. So June 30th is the deadline date. So
okay.
you're gonna pay yourself, which
Mhm.
it sounds kind of strange, but this is the way the program works for self-employed people. You're gonna pay yourself this money in that 2-month plus time frame in order to qualify for loan forgiveness. Because the last thing you want to do is have to pay it back.
Right, right. And then as far as expenses are concerned, is coaching included on that or?
No, the only 3 things for you to pay: yourself,
Mhm.
your rent, and your utilities. Now, 75% has to be on yourself, the payroll cost, and the only 25% can be on rent and utilities. Now, when you pay yourself, you're going to put it in a different bank account. In
Okay,
that other account, you can pay anything you want out of that. You know, there's no restrictions on what you're going to do with your own money, but the banker has to see that the money that they gave you has been spent on you. A check payable to yourself, and you take it out of that account. That's all I can say in order for you to qualify.
so, and as far as utilities are concerned, is that my utility bill for my house or it has to be?
If you have a home office, it would be just your home office. You have to allocate it to your one room.
Okay, and I don't pay a rent, I pay a mortgage. So that would be calculated as a rent for my home office.
Just for your home office, correct? If that's what you normally do. Now, I think that your tax return, the way you've been filing it, is going to play a part in that. If you've been deducting a home office in 2019 or 18, and the banker sees that, then you have a very legitimate reason to use this money to pay yourself rent and utilities, because you've been doing it anyway on your tax return. If it comes out of the blue all of a sudden, it might be an issue,
Yeah.
right?
So we were actually audited back in, I want to say 2017, and they will no longer, the IRS will not allow me to use my home office as a deduction. I can't go through the hows and whys, but they put a kibosh on that.
Okay, then just pay yourself then with this money. Forget about rent or utilities in your case.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So Luann asked, who wouldn't be eligible for PPP? It sounds like all realtors would be.
If you have a profit in your business, you're eligible. And if you've been harmed in the pandemic, you're eligible.
Okay. Let me see if there's any other questions over here. Do you need to open a business account for the PPP?
Many banks are requiring you already have had a business account. Opening it now in some cases is too late. I just got off a phone call half an hour ago with a client of mine that was using Bank of America. And because she did not have a business account with Bank of America, she was running her 1099 business and her real estate through her own personal checking account. They locked her out of the program. They did not allow her to apply. And she's like, well, I'll apply now. I'll get a business account right now. And they said, no, it's too late. You had to have it by February 15th. So that's one of those unfortunate things that I think the government's going to loosen up on eventually. But right now, I'm hearing that it's a problem.
Gotcha. Karen, I see you have a question. I'm not sure I quite understand it. Would you be able to unmute and ask your question really quickly?
Sure. I just want to clarify what I asked you before.
Sure.
And basically, so I go out, if I haven't put my money into, I haven't submitted my taxes for 2019, but I have a 1099. I have the estimate, I have my expenses already figured out. Can I use that, or do I have to use a 2018?
I'm sorry, you're going to have to repeat this. I really didn't understand your question.
Okay, so I have not submitted my taxes for 2019, but I have the net amount for my 2019 with subtracting my gross income, subtracting my expenses. Can I use that?
Yes, I mean, as long as your banker accepts it, sure.
Because I'm
I
gonna
mean, if you
submit
have,
it soon.
if you have it filled out and it's in a tax return program and you have a Schedule C, then I think you can use that. Yes.
No, but we didn't submit it. We didn't finish. I didn't get to that point yet. She's working on it now.
Well, if I would say if you have a better result in 2019 than you did in 18, then you better get that 19 done right away and use that result. If 18 is a better result, then maybe the better planning is to wait on 19 until this is over.
Okay. And then I can add the medical premiums plus the IRA contribution for 2019.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Dean, I'm sure we could probably go all day, but I want to be respectful of your time. And we do have a couple other guests to get to. So if you could go ahead and put your information in the chat box as well, that way people can reach out to you. I think that would be very helpful. I know a lot of people have questions about their specific situations. So I'm guessing you're still taking on new clients for this year, right?
Yeah, this is a strange year for sure, but I'm happy to help anybody that needs help.
Thanks, Dean. I appreciate it. If anybody has any questions for Dean, definitely reach out to him directly. I'll have him put his information in the chat box and we can go from there. But if you do already have an accountant that you're working with, of course, they should be able to answer some of these questions as well. But we appreciate your time, Dean. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Where do I do this chat box thing?
I think that I can actually put it in there as soon as if on the right-hand side, there's a chat box, but if you're on your phone, I can go ahead and do it for you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Of course. My pleasure.
All right, everybody. Best of luck and be safe out there. That's the important thing.
Thank you.
Take care.